I'm Michael Hagedorn, and I have been playing around with bonsai since I was a teenager, so for 30 years or more. I was in Japan as an apprentice for several years, and now I run a studio near Portland, Oregon. My master in Japan was Shinji Suzuki, who's part of a clan of bonsai professionals over there, and I studied with him for almost 3 years. So when I was 15, I found a book in my parents' library, a book about bonsai. And at the time I was growing cacti. I was very interested in plants. My mother was a big gardener. My father was a biologist, so I kind of was part of this whole thing. And when I was young, I would, on coming back home from school, I'd head off into the woods. So I was doing bird watching, I was doing a lot of tree watching. I was very involved in the natural world at that time. Mostly I'm inspired by the trees that I see around me. When I was a kid, I was walking through the mixed forests of the Northeast. And right now, I live in the Pacific Northwest, and so the large forest trees are really playing a role in the kind of work that I'm doing. So I do a lot of trees that are very tall and very straight, and have a very foresty feeling with the language between the trunks and all that. Inspires me a lot. But usually the things that inspire the feeling that we're trying to get at in bonsai are usually inspired by mountaintop trees. So they have a lot of parts of them that are dead, and there's living parts, and they're very small and twisted, and they're fascinating trees to look at. But that wasn't my background, and it's not really what I see around me here. So I feel at the moment that I'm very influenced by my local surroundings. When I first came to the Pacific Northwest, one of the first things I did was I went up to Mount Hood near Timberline Lodge there, and there are several clumps of hemlock that grow together in this sort of pyramidal shape, and there are large trees in the middle and small ones on the outside, and they're like protecting one another. They're in the lee of winds and whatnot, and they have very interesting interrelationships. Just visually, and I was very inspired by that, not just visually, but also ecologically, what was going on there. So I have been working with some of these groups. It's not really a forest, but it sort of has the forest feeling on a small scale, and that's been something I've been playing with recently. So when first encountered, a bonsai might seem kind of awkward. It has a bit of an unusual approach to beauty, really. And many of the Japanese arts are like this. In fact, there's a whole constellation of Japanese arts. There's haiku and tea and garden design, all of which are really kind of different from what Western aesthetics are based on. And so there's a bit of uncertainty around it, I think, and yet an attraction as well. And many of these things are based on aesthetic values that are a little hard for us to understand. But they're based on several main feelings. One of them being the feeling of of a lonely spirit in the wilderness, and the other is a feeling of age, and the other is a feeling of refined elegance, and a final one is a feeling of something that isn't all there. It's a little bit hidden or obscured. So all of those feelings together are present in all of these arts, including bonsai. Which are not easy, I think, for us to relate to in the global aesthetic climate that we're in right now, which makes them very valuable. So the qualities of any story are also present in bonsai. So rhythm and movement, those large themes, we find them in something like a novel like Les Miserables. We find them in La Bohème. We find them in some poems as well, some very small poems. Bonsai is quite small, but it talks about a much larger world, and an effective bonsai is really going to tell a story about natural history, how a tree has been influenced by its environment, and something of its personal history within that environment. Bonsai has been the rudder of my life. Not only has it been a place to explore as an artist, design, but also collaboration with a living thing, which is such a rare thing in art. It's also allowed me to make friends all over the world, regardless of language or culture or politics. It cuts through that to the messages of beauty and nature and peace and community. My teacher talked about this a lot when I was in Japan. He said, never be afraid to talk about peace, because it is that. And it's something that I wake up every day loving, that it's in my life.